Today I will show you how to increase and decrease while knitting a pattern, and I will make this small bag. You can find the instructions in the Passap manual. First, make sure the racking handle is in its lowest position. Raise 40 needles on the front bed, 20 to the left and 20 to the right of the center. Place the edge springs on the last working ones. Now raise the opposite 40 needles on the back bed and place the edge springs on the last working ones. You have to observe the needle rule. Set both locks to N and the stitch size to 3. Insert the orange strippers and take the first color yarn. I'm using 2 strands of acrylic yarn. Knit 1 row. Set both locks to CX and increase the stitch size to 4. Now knit 2 rows. Set both locks to N and increase the stitch size to 5. Now knit 1 row to finish the cast on. Set the front lock to BX and press the left arrow key. Then set the back lock to CX. Raise pushers under all needles in working position and arrange them in 1-to-1 division. Now knit 40 rows to make the overknit part. Set the back lock to BX and press both arrow keys. On the front bed, raise 1 needle on each side and move the edge springs on them. Make sure there is a pusher for each working needle and arrange them according to the diagram. In the video I'm trying to center it, that's why it is not as in the diagram. Now raise 1 needle on each side of the back bed and move the edge springs on them. Raise pushers under all working needles and arrange them in 1-to-1 division. Knit 4 rows according to the sequence. You can find the sequence next to the diagram in the manual. Now raise 1 needle on each side and move the edge springs. Raise 2 pushers under these needles and arrange them according to the diagram. Raise 2 needles on each side of the back bed. Then raise 2 pushers and arrange them in 1-to-1 division. Now knit 4 rows according to the sequence. Now continue increasing the needles the same way. The sequence for this pattern contains 80 rows, so don't clear the row counter while making the increases. Now I'm making the last increases. By the way, this pattern can be found in several Passap manuals and the final result is different in each one of them. So if you want to check out other variations of it, you can browse through the manuals. Knit 4 rows after making the last increase. You must have 60 needles on each bed and the row counter must show 40 rows. At this point you have to continue knitting according to the sequence until the row counter is at 80 rows. You can make a cheat sheet with the rows and colors you need to follow or use the one I made in the description. Now you can clear the row counter. At this point you have to repeat these 80 rows 2 times more but without making increases. You only have to change the yarn according to the sequence. Then start knitting the pattern again but stop when the row counter is at row count 40. We are in the middle of the sequence. At each end on each bed take the last stitch and move it 1 needle in. Put the empty needles and pushers out of working position. Don't forget to support me by liking the video. Now knit 4 rows according to the sequence and continue making the decreases the same way. At each end on each bed, take the last stitch and move it one needle in. This way the piece will look exactly the same on both sides. If you make this accessories pouch, I will be happy to see a photo of it. You can send me photos of your projects on my Facebook page or my email. Keep making decreases until you have 40 needles on each bed. The row counter must be at 80 rows. Now set the backlog to CX. Raise all pushers on the front bed and arrange them in 1-to-1 division. Now knit 40 rows with the first color yarn to make the overknit part. Set both logs to CX and decrease the stitch size to 4. Now knit 2 rows. Set both logs to N and increase the stitch size to 6. Now knit 1 row and lower the front bed. Use the yellow tool and make a zigzag clutch cast off. Raise the needles all the way, then bring them down to remove the knitted piece from the machine. Now it should look like this. Fold it in half and sew the sides using the mattress stitch. Now it should look like this. To make it look better, first turn it inside out. Fold the corners as shown in the video. I will measure 3 cm from each end, then I will put a pin to hold it in place. Now do the same with the other corner. It should look like this. Make sure the pins are placed in the same spot on each corner. Now use your sewing machine and sew a straight line on each corner. It should look like this. Now you can cut the excess fabric close to the seams. When you turn the back inside out, it will stay in shape. Now I will sew a zipper to the back. Choose a zipper that is longer than the back. Align one of the ends with the back and sew it. That's not the way I would typically sew a zipper, but it will do the job. Now I will close the zipper and align the other end. Hold the zipper tape in place and open the zipper. Now sew the end of the zipper. It will look like this. Now you have to sew both sides of the zipper to the back. And that is the final result. Tell me, do you like it in the comments below? That's all for today. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day and see you in my next video.